Chapter 46:19. Tang Tailan didn't get an answer that day about the marriage between Wen Lang and Miss Chun, so he left alone. Along the way, he thought a lot and recalled the past. He suddenly felt that he and Wen Lang were like ordinary men and women. Their relationship was not as strong as he imagined. From the beginning, it was not their families that separated them, but what they didn't want to give up. He didn't have so much courage to face a different world. In other words, he knew that Wen Lang couldn't give up the things in his hands. He also wanted to find some excuses to end it, but he didn't want to. And Wen Lang couldn't give up the wealth and power in his hands. Tang Tailan ignored Wen Lang. Wen Lang felt that Tang Tailan was serious, so he was a little angry. After being angry, he flew into a rage out of shame. He destroyed Tang Tailan's restaurant, but he didn't expect that Tang Tailan went back to the countryside. Wen Lang was not reconciled. He locked Tang Tailan in his private villa and had a sadistic love in his middle age. Tang Gua had been paying attention to what happened there. She kindly helped to call the police. Wen Lang was arrested for imprisoning other people's personal freedom, and Miss Chun took advantage of this time and the previous preparation to crazily divide the resources of Wen's company. She used cooperation projects to empty Wen's company. When Wen Lang realized it, Wen's company was in danger. At this time, he knew that he was cheated. However, what he got was a divorce agreement. Later, he found that Miss Chun was the distant cousin of his ex-wife Su Yi. She not only had a relationship with Su Yi, but also knew Yang Yuxuan. At this time, how could Wen Lang not understand that he had been schemed against by the three women? Wen's company went bankrupt. It was unexpected but also expected. Tang Tailan went back to the countryside, and Wen Lang didn't come to him again. Tang Gua spent her 4 years in college listening to Wen's affairs. Since Tang Tailan went back to the countryside, she didn't pay much attention to it. Until Yang Yuxuan told her something, she was still a little surprised. Sick. Tang Gua was a little surprised. Tang Tailan in the plot was healthy all his life, and didn't have any strange diseases. What disease? That disease. Yang Yuxuan shook her head. The dirty disease AIDS. Speaking of this, she was a little scared. Tang Gua understood. He slept with other women outside? When Yang Yuxuan heard this, she didn't know what to say. However, she shook her head. It shouldn't be him. I know him. He's a bit aloof and noble. He only has warmth in his heart. Was it infected by Wen Lang? Yes. Yang Yuxuan nodded. During that period of time, the two of them were in conflict. Wen Lang found a few substitutes, and it was very messy. I think he got it at that time. Later on, Wen Lang and Tang Tailan met a few times. Even Wen Lang? Yes. Yang Yuxuan was also in disbelief. Tang Tailan is unlucky. Mom, do you pity him? Tang Gua didn't care. She remembered very clearly that Tang Tailan didn't sympathize with Yang Yuxuan's experience in the plot. He didn't even pity her. Now that he was infected by Wen Lang, he deserved it. What kind of person was Wen Lang? Tang Tailan had known him for so long, how could he not know? If Jiang Juxiang hadn't stopped them back then, she really didn't think that the two of them would have really gotten together. Jiang Juxiang called me. She wants to see you and apologize to you, Yang Yuxuan said. It's fine if you don't want to. She even apologized to me. Tang Gua shook her head. There's no need to see her. Mom, if you didn't get a divorce back then, what would have happened to you, and what would have happened to me? No matter how pitiful they are, it's their own fault. I know, Yang Yuxuan said. I don't plan to see her. When I think about the past, I feel suffocated. If I didn't get over it, I might not have been able to live after giving birth to Gigi. You two are motherless children, and you're not liked. I don't know what kind of life you'll have. You'll definitely be bullied. Climax. Chapter 46:20. That's good. Alright. Do you really think I'm a living Buddha who doesn't hold grudges? It's already good enough that I don't target them. It's also because of Wen Lang that he wanted to destroy my company. Otherwise, I wouldn't have thought of this. He's really offended a lot of people over the years. Tang Gua and Yang Yuxuan didn't plan to see Jiang Juxiang, regardless of whether she regretted it or not. As for Tang Tailan, they didn't have any thoughts about him. Why did he only think of them when he was sick? Just bear with it. Medical technology was advanced now, and the rest of his life was quite long. After Tanggua graduated, she didn't plan to go out to work. She had a big family and a big business, and she also had a powerful sister. She wanted to be a salted fish and develop some hobbies. Yang Yushuan said that it was nothing. She could still raise her daughter. Yang Ji also said that it was nothing. Things like working hard were left to her. Xie Fan couldn't do it. He was an only child, and he was dragged into the company to study as soon as he graduated. When Tanggua was free, she would bring milk tea to the office to work with him. Xie Fan was a little resentful at first, but when he saw Tanggua beside him, he suddenly calmed down. Two people in one family. One of them had to work to support the family. The person who worked could only be him. System. Host, what strange things did your cutie imagine? Why did he suddenly become hardworking? Tanggua. This is what a mature man is like. When she was free, Tanggua sent a message to An Yuan to ask about the situation. An Yuan. I'm accompanying Wen Ran to start his business. Mengshi is always in trouble, and his family is bloodsucking. I feel that even if I don't interfere, they won't last long. Tanggua, respond to her. I want to see if she's disgusting. An Yuan. Boss, Wen Ran is actually very straightforward. Tanggua. It doesn't matter whether he's straightforward or not. I just need Mengshi to know that you covet Wen Ran. An Yuan. Understood. I plan to take advantage of this time to make more money, so that I can travel around the world with Brother Zeng in the future. Tanggua. Then you can do it. Zeng Chun has saved up a lot of money. You can survive for at least 100 years. It's good to make more money. An Yuan. Okay. After chatting with An Yuan, Tanggua contacted Zhang Xingyue. Isn't she about to start her internship? She planned to trick him into working for the Yang Corporation. Zhang Xingyue was a down-to-earth and serious child. Coming to the Yang Corporation was the right choice. Tanggua, come and give it a try. I'll provide you with an internship opportunity. Whether you can become a permanent employee or sign a contract directly in the future will depend on your personal ability. Zhang Xingyue, I really don't know what to say. Tanggua. Then work hard and sign a formal employment contract as soon as possible instead of being an intern. The next day, Zhang Xingyue came to the company for her internship. Because of Tanggua's kindness, Zhang Xingyue had worked hard for the Yang Group all her life. Of course, the rewards she received were great. What are you eating? It was noon. Tanggua stood up and glanced at Xie Fan, who was still reading the documents. There's a lot of documents. Why don't you read them in the afternoon? Xie Fan shook his head. I'm afraid I can't. These are rather urgent. I have to finish reading them this morning. Tanggua put her phone aside and picked up a document to read. Then I'll eat after I finish reading it. Thank you for your hard work. Xie Fan looked a little embarrassed. It seemed that ever since he was young, his girlfriend had always been better than him. His girlfriend was good at everything, but she was a little lazy. Are you complaining that I'm lazy in your heart again? Tanggua raised her eyebrows and glanced at Xie Fan. Xie Fan's face was stiff and serious. No. Tell me the truth. Okay, a little. I just want you to eat lunch on time. Tanggua put the approved documents aside. How dare you say that I'm lazy? I'm spoiling you. I like it when you're lazy. Xie Fan quickly remedied and changed the topic. What are we eating later? 2 years later, Tanggua received news from An Yuan that Mengshi and Wen Ran were going to get married. The Peak. Chapter 46-21. Congratulations to you all. At this moment, An Yuan, Wen Ran, Mengshi, and their mutual friends were all in a private room. Wen Ran had just successfully proposed to Mengshi. The two of them had been stumbling for the past few years. In fact, Mengshi did not expect that the obstacle between her and Wen Ran would be Wen Lang, the elder she once respected very much. After the Wen Corporation went bankrupt, Wen Lang wanted to make a comeback. However, he had offended too many people and was too ruthless. He did not leave a way out for others. No one was willing to see him get up again, and no one was willing to help Wen Lang. After a few times, Wen Lang lost more than half of his personal assets and did not make any progress. Just as he was unwilling to give up, he was diagnosed with an illness. When Mengshi found out that Wen Lang had AIDS, she could not believe it. At first, She thought that it was an accident. Later, she found out from others that when Lang was sick, because he went out to fool around. When he had a conflict with Tang Tailin, he had found many young men similar to Tang Tailin. At that time, Mengxi's worldview was shattered. Later, she heard that Tang Tailin also had this disease, and that Wen Ran had infected him. Ever since the Wen Corporation went bankrupt, the two of them had not seen each other again. Every time Mengxi wanted to do something, she was stopped by Wen Ran. Seeing that he could not make a comeback, Wen Lang placed his hopes on Wen Ran. Wen Ran's ability was not bad. She might be able to achieve something if she took one step at a time. However, Wen Lang was used to living high and mighty. He wanted Wen Ran to reach the sky in one step, and wanted to marry her. For this, Wen Lang even looked for Mengxi, and planned to give her some money to leave Wen Ran. Mengxi did not agree. Wen Ran also rejected Wen Lang's approach, and planned to take it one step at a time. Wen Lang was very angry when he was rejected by the two of them. As a father, he asked Wen Ran to submit. He even said that if Wen Ran did not agree, he could forget about using the resources in his hands. Then, Wen Ran really did not want a single cent from Wen Lang. She decided to find a company to work in first, and take it one step at a time. Not only could Mengxi not help Wen Ran, but she also had to deal with the bloodsucking family. Instead, she added a lot of trouble to Wen Ran. Wen Ran left the university, and would only go back for exams. Mengxi was still studying in school, and Yuan came out to work with Wen Ran, which touched Wen Lang. When he was in such a difficult situation, his good brother was still the most reliable. After Wen Ran accumulated a certain amount of resources and connections, she planned to go out on her own. And Yuan even invested all of his money in supporting Wen Ran's entrepreneurship, which made Wen Ran feel touched. By now, Wen Ran had already started his business for several years. The company's turnover had doubled several times, and Mengxi had also graduated. The relationship between the two of them was not smooth sailing. Wen Ran was also a rising star in the business world. Naturally, there were many women who had ideas about him. Because of this, Mengxi had been jealous several times. Wen Ran felt that now that his career was successful, he should give Mengxi an answer. After all, Mengxi had no intention of leaving him during his most difficult time. Thus, he had successfully proposed to Mengxi today, and the next step was to prepare for the wedding. The words "congratulations" were said by An Yuan when Wen Ran was holding hands with Mengxi after his successful proposal. An Yuan looked a little bitter, but he didn't want others to see it. After saying this, he turned around and went back to his seat. However, Wen Ran pressed down on his shoulder and hugged him tightly. She patted his back and said, "Good brother, it's all thanks to you that I am where I am today." Vertex. Chapter 46:22. When he was down and out, many people around him had left, but An Yuan never had the intention to leave. He even took out all his savings to support him. Jiray An Yuan maintained a faint smile. His boss said that Wen Ran could succeed, so he invested all his money in him. As long as Wen Ran worked hard, he would have endless money to travel the world in the future. "Why are you saying that?" An Yuan pushed Wen Ran away, looking a little embarrassed. "I have high hopes for you. You will definitely succeed." When Wen Ran heard this, he was even more touched. Back then, not many people had high hopes for him. Even Mengxi did not expect him to succeed. An Yuan was indeed a good brother who grew up with him. The way An Yuan looked at Wen Ran was different. In fact, those who had been with Wen Ran for a long time could see something, but no one thought in that direction. They only thought that An Yuan's loneliness was because Wen Ran was going to start a family and could not go out with them in the future. On this day, An Yuan was drunk. The paper puppet could not be drunk. He was just pretending. "This is the first time I've seen brother and drunk," someone said. Wen Ran looked at An Yuan, who was slumped on the sofa, and instructed the others, "You guys keep an eye on him. We have to escort An Yuan home later. Don't let anything happen." "Don't worry, boss. We know even if you don't say it. Boss is about to get married, but brother-in doesn't have a girlfriend yet. I wonder when brother-in will find one. I remember that brother-in has been fighting with boss since he was young. He has never had a girlfriend. I've asked about this before, Brother doesn't seem to be interested in having a girlfriend. Maybe he doesn't like anyone. Brother might be more career-oriented. She sat beside Wenran and listened to Wenran's good friends talk, but she could not join in. Even though her grades were not bad when she was in school, she finished university step by step. She did not have much in common with Wenran's friends, who had been in the society for many years. When she heard these people talking about Yuan, she looked in his direction and saw him leaning there with his eyes hazy and his cheeks slightly red. If Wenran was described as tough and handsome, then Enran was described as elegant and beautiful. For some reason, she had a very strange feeling. Wenran, I'm going to the bathroom, she whispered and got up. At this time, Yuan sobered up a little. He stood up unsteadily and said that he needed to go to the washroom. No one thought anything was wrong. Wenran looked at him and called for someone. Who will accompany him? I'm afraid that this kid will fall into a pit. Are you getting married? Or am I getting married? Why do you look even more excited than me? Wenran smiled and put her hand on someone's shoulder. She went to the bathroom without answering Wenran's question. The person he was holding was the one who knew a little about his thoughts. After Wenran went to the bathroom, he didn't return to the private room. Instead, he found a slightly hidden place and lit a cigarette to smoke. Seeing that he was silent, his friend stopped smiling and didn't disturb him. Yuan had been paying attention to Mengxi's movements. When he heard the other party's familiar footsteps coming out, he suddenly said, Qin Liang, you go back first. I'll be alone for a while. Boss told me to keep an eye on you, in case you fall into a trap. Qin Liang smiled and said, if something happens to you, how am I going to explain it to boss? Vertex. Chapter 46-23. What can happen to such a big person? It's a little stuffy inside. I'll stay outside for a while. You go in and have fun with them. Yuan's voice sounded a little sad. Mengxi thought it was a normal conversation and planned to pretend not to know. She was about to leave and return to the private room when Qin Liang's next sentence made her stop in her tracks. Big brotherin, are you really not going to tell boss? Tell him what? Yuan felt that Qin Liang was very smart. As expected of the assistant he had carefully selected, he had only vaguely revealed his feelings for Wenran to Qin Liang. Now he could really help him a lot. Big brotherin, you like boss, right? Yuan really choked this time. This kid was really direct. He coughed a few times and paid attention to Mengxi's movements. After confirming that she hadn't left, he said in a slightly panicked voice, what nonsense are you talking about? Big brotherin, there's no one else here. Why can't I say it? Don't think I can't tell that you've liked boss for a long time. In the past, when you went to fight with boss, you were always the first to rush. If anyone touched boss, I guarantee that they wouldn't be able to get out of bed for half a month. Later on, when boss's family got into trouble, you didn't leave. You helped us think about it and let us follow boss. We definitely won't regret it in the future. Actually, many of us brothers might not have been able to accompany boss if it wasn't for you. When we started the business, you took out all your savings and contributed people and effort. You suffered more than anyone else and didn't leave any way out. You always remember everything about boss clearly. You're not careless. Even if boss's girlfriend is in trouble, you're willing to take the trouble to solve it. Big brotherin, there's no one else who has a crush on you. I really admire you. But do you really plan to continue like this and watch boss get married? Actually, you had a chance in the beginning. Go away, what kind of chance is that? Yuan pushed Qin Liang and panicked. Don't think too much. He's about to get married. Don't ruin it. At this point, Yuan's voice changed. If he's even a little bit interested, do you think I'll let him go? You don't even tell me what you think. Do you know if boss likes you? Qin Liang was not satisfied. In his opinion, Brother An's only flaw was that he was a man. Otherwise, he and boss would be a match made in heaven. Alright, don't mention this again. He's getting married. Yuan said sadly. He didn't know what Mengxi was thinking at this moment. As a secret admirer, how could he make the other party feel as if he had eaten a mouthful of shit? Qin Liang, are you sure? Actually, I feel that you're not ordinary in boss's heart. Don't mention it. I'll get angry if you mention it again. Alright, let's not talk about it anymore. I just feel that it's a pity. Brother and boss are so compatible. In today's company, both you and boss are indispensable. If the two of you work together, it's really a pity. That's good too, and Yuan said. Let's go. It's time to go back. I don't want them to really think that I fell into a trap. When Mengshi heard this, he hurriedly walked back to the private room. His mind was buzzing, and Yuan actually had such feelings for Wenran. Recalling the days when Yuan and Wenran had gone through life and death together, Mengshi suddenly felt that Yuan's existence was the biggest crisis in her relationship. If Yuan revealed something, would Wenran not be moved? Mengshi hugged Wenran's arm. When she saw Yuan walk in drunkenly, Wenran, who was beside her, stood up subconsciously. She actually ignored her and stood up to receive Yuan. This made Mengshi afraid. Peak. Chapter 46-24. In Wenran's heart, Yuan was more important than her. No, how could that be? However, when she saw Wenran smiling and patting Yuan's shoulder indulgently, Mengshi stood up and grabbed Wenran's arm, indicating that she was not feeling well and wanted to go back. Then let's go home. Wenran hugged Mengshi, which made her feel much better. However, Wenran's next sentence chilled her heart. And Yuan, when you get home later, remember to call to make sure you're safe. Also, go back and cook some hangover soup and have a good sleep. There's nothing much to do recently, so it's okay to go to the company later. Your health is more important. And Yuan, okay. Mengshi only felt that her legs were cold. When she followed Wenran out, she looked back at Yuan and happened to see him looking at Wenran in a daze. She couldn't help but quicken her pace. Mengshi only felt flustered and a little disgusted. Recently, Yuan had been helping Wenran prepare for the wedding. Because of what he said before, Mengshi no longer found him pleasing to the eye. As long as it was something Yuan chose, she felt dissatisfied and wanted to choose again. When she thought about how Yuan had prepared the things for her wedding according to his preferences, she felt very uncomfortable. I don't like this color. And this restaurant, I don't like it either. This doesn't seem to be suitable. And Yuan was very patient. Then what do you like, sister-in-law? I'll choose again. Mengshi felt uncomfortable in her heart, but she couldn't say it out loud. As long as it was something he chose, it was not suitable. Her expression was particularly ugly. Actually, I've shown these to boss before, and he's quite satisfied. If you're not satisfied, you can discuss it with boss again. And Yuan said patiently. Mengshi felt even more uncomfortable. Later, Mengshi told Wenran that she wanted to decorate the wedding herself and choose the things she needed. After all, it was a once-in-a-lifetime event. Wenran could tell that she seemed to be a little dissatisfied with Yuan. Is there a problem with Yuan? You seem to be a little dissatisfied with him? Wenran asked directly because Yuan was his good brother. He didn't want any misunderstandings. Mengshi quickly shook her head. No, I really want to choose it myself. Okay, I won't let Yuan do this. I was afraid that something would go wrong with you, so I troubled Yuan to help me. Wenran was actually a little dissatisfied, and Yuan was the person he trusted the most. Mengshi's attitude made him feel a little sorry for Yuan. After this incident, Wenran apologized to Yuan again, and Yuan generously expressed that he didn't mind. Sister-in-law may be too nervous. He was becoming more and more like a green tea. If Brother Zeng knew, he would definitely laugh at him. At Mengshi and Wenran's wedding, Yuan got drunk again. When Mengshi saw Wenran instructing others to take care of Yuan, he felt as if he had been fed a mouthful of feces. When Yuan returned home, he immediately sent a message to Tanggua. Wenran, this brat, really treats me as a brother. He doesn't mean anything else, but Mengshi is really miserable. Tanggua, isn't she rotten now? I thought she would be excited to know that someone liked her husband and wanted to play matchmaker. And Yuan, she feels like she's been fed a mouthful of shit. She's upset. Just wait and see. I don't have to do anything. I just need to cooperate with Wenran, and it will be enough for her to suffer. Tanggua, I'll prepare some gifts for her. And Yuan had a bad feeling in his heart. Boss, what gifts do you want to prepare? Tanggua, Ran is also considered a rising star. Naturally, there should be both men and women suitors. If it's women, I won't arrange anything. I'll arrange more male suitors. Mengshi can tolerate Tang Tailin cheating on Wen Lang in his marriage, and matchmaking the two of them. He even has the cheek to ask me to give him my blessings. Then I'll send more suitors to her husband. And Yuan, Wen Ran, this brat, is very determined. Tanghua. I don't plan to let them succeed. I'm just arranging for some outstanding men to appear by Wen Ran's side. The so-called outstanding people will always attract more attention, right? And Yuan. Alright, they're just an eyesore, right? And Yuan didn't expect Tanghua to act so quickly. At a cocktail party, Mengshi also attended with Wen Ran. When Mengshi returned from the washroom, he heard the boss from another city talking to Wen Ran. His face was full of admiration, but when he heard the other party's words, his face almost cracked. President Wen is young and promising. I didn't expect you to already have a wife. The handsome boss from another city looked regretful. What a pity. If I had come 1 or 2 years earlier, I might have had a chance. And Yuan, very good boss. You'll arrange it as you wish. Peak. Chapter 46-25. Mr. Zhang. Since you know that he already has a wife, why are you still talking about these meaningless things? Mengshi really couldn't stand it anymore. She walked up and took Wen Ran's arm, showing a very possessive look. She didn't like the young and handsome Mr. Zhang, and looked at him as if he was a mistress. Mr. Zhang was embarrassed, but he was a cultured person, so he couldn't lower his face to argue with a woman. I'm just sorry. I don't mean anything else. I'm really sorry for causing trouble to Mrs. Wen. After saying that, Mr. Zhang left. Mengshi was still unwilling to give up. She said to Mr. Zhang's back, Mr. Zhang, you'd better be clear about the occasion when you say these words in the future. It's not good to always cause misunderstandings. I believe in Wen Ran, but others may misunderstand that Mr. Zhang is intervening in someone else's relationship. Mengshi's words were very rude. Even if Wen Ran stopped her, she still finished what she wanted to say. Ever since she got engaged and got married, she hadn't had a good day. There was an Yuan, who always coveted Wen Ran, and there were countless people outside who had designs on Wen Ran. Today she was here. If she wasn't here, she didn't know what those people would do. Why were men so shameless nowadays? If they liked the same sex, they dared to openly express it at the cocktail party. How shameful. Mengshi thought bitterly, but she didn't realize that she had completely lost control. CEO Zhang was really embarrassed. I'm sorry to have caused so much trouble to President Wen and Mrs. Wen. In order to avoid misunderstanding, we'd better wait and see about our cooperation. Mr. Zhang, please wait. Wen Ran broke free from Mengshi and hurriedly chased after him. His business had just started, and he really needed this young Mr. Zhang, who was a foreign investor. From the conversation just now, Mr. Zhang really expressed his regret in a very distant manner, and didn't want to use cooperation as an excuse. In the business world, he had seen countless dirty people. Mr. Zhang was actually a good person. He was looking forward to their cooperation. He didn't expect Mengshi to mind so much, but he didn't blame Mengshi. Even if he heard someone say such things to Mengshi, he would feel uncomfortable. If he hadn't experienced a series of changes and suffered a lot, when he heard someone say such things to Mengshi, his reaction might be similar to Mengshi's. He might even beat that person up and not care about the cooperation at all. However, he was no longer the fearless Wen Ran from his childhood. He shouldered a heavy responsibility. Only by supporting the family and making the company prosperous could he be worthy of his wife and his brothers. Losing Mr. Zhang's cooperation was a huge loss for the company. Cici, the cooperation with CEO Zhang this time is very important. CEO Zhang is a good person. He definitely doesn't have any ulterior motives. I'll come back and explain to you later. After saying that, Wen Ran chased after President Zhang. Mengshi's eyes reddened. She felt that Wen Ran didn't care about her as much as before. She seemed to hear the people around her whispering. They were talking about her. Was she no longer liked by Wen Ran? As long as Wen Ran stopped liking her, wouldn't those people have a chance? Dream on. She's too jealous. She doesn't care about the occasion at all. President Wen's temper is really good. He's not even angry at all. If I had known that Wen Ran was so powerful, I wouldn't have listened to my mother. I thought that Wen Ran was useless and gave up pursuing him. Vertex. Chapter 46-26. A good man has to be started from a young age. Look at Meng Shi. Didn't she succeed in an instant? Meng Shi was with President Wen back then. How could President Wen not indulge her? As the saying goes, a loyal man like President Wen will definitely not mistreat a woman who has suffered with him. I regret it. I really regret it. Meng Shi did not know that these people were not mocking her, but envious. Sister-in-law, President Zhang didn't mean anything else. Don't take it to heart. And Yuan appeared beside Meng Shi at the right time and poured her a drink. President Zhang has a new project in his hands. If our company can get it, it will bring the company to a higher level. It's not that boss doesn't care about you, sister-in-law. Otherwise, if it were someone else, boss might be angry. If Meng Shi did not know that Yuan liked Wen Ran, she would have been comforted by these words. Anyway, I think that saying those words to a married man is shameless, disgusting, and cheap, Meng Shi said bluntly. Especially those who clearly know that Wen Ran is married, but still think of Wen Ran in their hearts. Regardless of whether they are men or women, they are very shameless. When Yuan heard this, how could he not understand that Meng Shi was scolding those who had a crush on Wen Ran? But she was also scolding him. His face stiffened at the right time, and Meng Shi happened to see it. Then, he returned to normal, and did not say anything else. And Yuan, don't you think so? Isn't this kind of person cheap, shameless, and disgusting? Meng Shi saw that Yuan did not speak, but she did not give up. Instead, she asked Yuan to answer. And Yuan could not hold back his fake smile, but he still said, Sister-in-law, are you tired? Do you want to go home first? I'll send you back. No, you answer first. Just when Yuan felt that it was very difficult, Wen Ran walked back. After his eloquent words, perhaps his sincerity and ability moved President Zhang. President Zhang was still willing to continue the cooperation, but the other party refused to meet Meng Shi. In addition, he showed that he definitely did not have any improper thoughts about him. It was indeed inappropriate for him to speak before. President Zhang's magnanimity made Wen Ran feel even more fortunate. Fortunately, he chased after him. Otherwise, he would have missed a very good partner. If it were someone else, not to mention cooperation, they might even make things difficult for him. What are you talking about? Wen Ran walked over and pulled Meng Shi. Cici, are you still angry? There's really nothing between me and CEO Zhang. Wen Ran also found that Yuan's complexion was not very good. She asked with concern, Xiao Yuan, your complexion looks a little bad. Are you sick? Why don't you go back and rest first? Meng Shi was still thinking about President Zhang. But when he heard that Wen Ran was concerned about Yuan, he almost exploded. She said in a strange tone, I'm asking Yuan, are those people who clearly know that you're a married man, but still have a crush on you and express their feelings for you cheap, disgusting, and shameless? Cici, that's other people's business. You should know that I don't care about these things at all. I'm already married to you. You're the only one in my heart. Wen Ran quickly comforted her, thinking that Meng Shi was still concerned about President Zhang's matter. And Yuan, why aren't you answering my question? Is this a difficult question? Today, Meng Shi insisted that Yuan answer this question. He hoped that the other party would understand his position and not think of being a married man. And Yuan's expression became more and more unsightly, but he still forced himself to answer. Sister-in-law is right. Wen Ran, on the other hand, was a little displeased. Although he liked Meng Shi and indulged her, he still felt very uncomfortable when he saw her unwilling to forgive him. Vertex. Chapter 46-27. Whether other people liked him or not was their business. No one could control other people's thoughts. However, Meng Shi transferred her anger to Yuan. She felt very guilty towards Yuan. This was a brother who had gone through life and death with him. Wen Ran couldn't help but say, Cici, don't make things difficult for Xiao Yuan. If you're unhappy, you can come at me. You're making things difficult for me? Meng Shi couldn't help it. especially when she saw Wenran protecting In Yuan. She felt that In Yuan was more important to Wenran than her. Boss sister-in-law, you guys talk first. I really feel a little uncomfortable. I'm going out to get some fresh air. And Yuan expressed his attitude appropriately. Of course, he actually wanted to find a quiet place to report the news here to Tanghua. Wenran didn't want to embarrass Meng Shi in front of everyone. He planned to talk to Meng Shi after going back. And Yuan was a very important person to him. If it weren't for In Yuan, he wouldn't be where he was today. And Yuan, boss Meng Shi can't stay calm anymore. She dissed President Zhang in public today, and even made things difficult for me in front of Wenran. Tanghua, she can't hold it in anymore? My mom has been holding it in for 5 years. And Yuan smoked as he sent messages on his phone. He was very satisfied. Wenran is really capable. Boss, you gave him a resource for free. President Zhang actually cooperated with him. Tanghua, I don't mind at all. It's his ability to negotiate. Besides, isn't it more fun to distance him from Meng Shi? Maybe in the future, the Yang group can cooperate with Wenran. As long as we can make money, who does it matter who we cooperate with? And Yuan, you're right. Boss, you can see through everything. Wenran has some skills in managing the company. He's strict in all aspects. He just needs an opportunity. Tanghua, I can see how much you want to save money to travel. And Yuan, I feel like it's soon. When the matter blows up, I'll ask Wenran to leave the company and only take the shares. Then, I'll travel the world with Brother Zhang and go on adventures. As a human being, he had to do everything that a human being could do. Hearing footsteps, and Yuan hurriedly sent a message to Tanghua. Boss, I'll talk to you when I'm free. Someone is coming. Tanghua stared at her phone and revealed a naughty smile. Xiefan happened to see it, and he subconsciously looked at Tanghua's phone screen. He was curious who was chatting so happily with her at this time. Judging from the name, it seemed to be a man. Instead of looking at the phone screen, he stared at Tanghua's face. Although he had a straight face, Tanghua could still see the grievance in his eyes. Tanghua handed the phone to Xiefan, which surprised him. He shook his head. It shouldn't be anything ambiguous. I believe you. See? Aren't you curious? Tanghua smiled. We're about to get married. Let me share a secret with you. Only then did Xiefan pick up his phone and look at the chat history between Tanghua and In Yuan. In Yuan? Just now he felt that the name In Yuan sounded familiar. Now he finally remembered. Wasn't he Wenran's good brother? This In Yuan had followed Wenran all the way to the world, and was Wenran's most trusted person. The more he looked at the chat history, the more shocked Xiefan was. He looked at Tanghua in disbelief. And Yuan was his fiancé's man? Wasn't he hiding it too well? If Wenran knows, she'll cry. Xiefan handed the phone back. Tanghua shook her head. Why would she cry? The purpose of In Yuan's existence is to keep Wenran away from Meng Shi. On the contrary, with his help, Wenran is steadily rising. Without In Yuan's existence, no matter how capable Wenran is, she wouldn't be able to do it so smoothly. Peak. Chapter 46-28. In Yuan's main task over there is to keep Meng Shi at bay? Xiefan felt that it was a waste of talent. If he had a subordinate like In Yuan, he would definitely make good use of him. Tanghua chuckled and touched Xiefan's head. She felt that his hair felt good, so she rubbed it again. I just want Meng Shi to experience how much he hated me back then. You're so vengeful. You should be glad that you didn't offend me when you were young. Tanghua warned him. Otherwise you'll be the same. Xiefan's feet turned cold. He was sure that Tanghua was telling the truth, so he changed the topic. Let's talk about the wedding. Let's not talk about those unhappy things, okay? Okay, let's talk about the diamond ring first. I want a big one, as big as possible. Xiefan's eyebrows relaxed. This was too simple. If a big diamond ring could make his fiancée not want to hold a grudge, it would be too cheap. And the wedding? We have to hold a big one. Xiefan, that's what we should do. The house must be big too. Xiefan, that's a must. Seeing that he was so obedient, Tanghua added, if you don't have enough money, you can ask me for more. System. Yes, the host's various treasures are already moldy in the system space. This guy is really lucky. I'm a little jealous. Xie Fan didn't know what to say. He just wanted to get married soon and grow old together. As for An Yuan, after closing the chat with Tanggua, Qin Liang came to his side. Mengxi is a little too much. Qin Liang's first sentence was this. He actually took out his anger on you for what happened to President Zhang. Brethren, are you okay? An Yuan, I'm fine. An Yuan took a puff of his cigarette and felt as happy as a god. What could be wrong with him? He was just thinking about when he could just take a share and travel around the world. When Ran's career was steadily rising. In fact, he didn't need to do much now. He could also manage the company in an orderly manner. Seeing him like this, Qin Liang was very sad. Don't take it to heart. No matter what, you're the most important brother of boss. Mengxi is getting weirder and weirder. It's better to avoid him. After all, boss likes him. Ever since Mengxi got married, not only did he guard against women outside, but he also guarded against his brothers. It was also because their eldest brother was too outstanding that he attracted both men and women. Brethren, if you were a woman, she probably wouldn't have anything to do with you. Don't say that. It will affect the relationship between boss and his wife. And Yuan finished his cigarette and patted Qin Liang's shoulder. The corner of his lips curled up. It seemed like his retirement plan had to be brought forward. Don't let boss know about my matter. Don't burden him. As for sister-in-law, she probably didn't feel safe because boss was too outstanding. Let's keep our distance. No matter what, boss' happiness is the most important. Okay, I got it. Qin Liang felt more and more that Mengxi was insensible. If An Yuan wanted to, he really didn't think that boss wouldn't be tempted at all. The key was that An Yuan didn't even think about destroying anything. Also, these brothers who had worked hard with Wen Ran had actually become a thorn in Mengxi's side. Qin Liang watched An Yuan leave. When he turned around and saw Wen Ran standing behind him, he shouted in panic. Boss, when did you come? What is An Yuan hiding from me? Wen Ran's question made Qin Liang's expression change drastically. Oh no, boss heard it. Peek. Chapter 46-29. Recently, Mengxi had become more and more suspicious. When Wen Ran returned home, not only did she have to smell him, but she also only allowed him to wear the perfume she had chosen. If there was a slightly different smell, he would have to explain for a long time before she would believe him. When he gathered with his brothers in the company, Mengxi wanted to go with him every time. When it was time, he would clamor to go home. He also always told him that he had to be wary of others. This made Wen Ran very pained. The beautiful marriage he had originally expected seemed to be very different from reality. However, he could still tolerate this for the time being. The company's prosperity could also make up for some of the small flaws in his life. Ever since Wen Ran became better and better, Mengxi's family also became more and more popular with her. Mengxi believed in one sentence. Wen Ran's money must be spent vigorously. If she did not spend it, there would always be those bitches and shameless people outside who would help her spend it. Now her grandmother, father, and even her stepmother and younger brother were all very popular with her. All of them were pleasant. She liked this kind of harmonious family. Now that she was rich, of course, she would satisfy their small requests. Her younger brother wanted a car, so she bought him a car worth hundreds of thousands. There were also some miscellaneous things to be filial to her grandmother, to buy cigarettes and wine for her father, and to buy some jewelry for her stepmother. Now, all the neighbors knew that she was filial and said that she was good, until her family discussed with her about buying a wedding house for her younger brother. The number was close to 10 million, which made Mengxi a little hesitant. However, she quickly agreed. However, she could not afford such a large sum of money. She had to discuss it with Wen Ran. After Wen Ran found out, her expression was a little indescribable. 10 million to buy a wedding house for a stepmother's son? And it was a stepmother who treated Mengxi badly. Even if the company was doing well, was 10 million a small amount? Such a large amount of liquid capital could not be taken out casually. Even if she could take it out, Wen Ran would not agree to buy a wedding house for Meng Zicheng. Previously, when Mengxi used a few $100,000 to save face, he felt that it was nothing. However, that family was vampires. Now that Mengxi was getting more and more confused, He could not tolerate this kind of thing to continue. Impossible. When Ran refused, Meng Shi's eyes turned red. Why? Have you forgotten the past? How did they treat you in the past? When Ran really wanted to pry open her head and see what was inside, she had such a bad memory. The past is the past, and the present is the present. Now that our family has cleared up the misunderstanding and is living in harmony, what's the use of providing appropriate help? Meng Shi said matter-of-factly. Her expression reminded Wen Ran of something. Back then, she had also tried to persuade Tang Gua, Jiang Juxiang, and Tang Tailan to reconcile. At that time, he felt that it was inappropriate, but he didn't feel as if he had been stuffed with feces like now. If you must buy it, then let's get a divorce. When Ran's words were said out of anger, she wanted Meng Shi to value their relationship and not break it because of those irrelevant people. However, when Meng Shi heard this, he exploded. Now that you're rich, have you been wanting to divorce me for a long time? No. Yes, you do. That's what you think. The outside world is so wonderful. If you're not married, you can go and fool around. Do you think I didn't notice the way those men and women look at you? Are you regretting getting married? When Ran felt that Meng Shi was being unreasonable, the two of them had a big quarrel, and when Ran left home to go to the company, at that time, and Yuan happened to be in the company. Peak. Chapter 46:30. When Ran said, Cece is still too naive. She can't tell the true colors of that family. 10 million. When the company was first established, we brothers didn't sleep at all. How long did it take to earn 10 million? How can I not be angry when she wants to give them 10 million? When Ran, who didn't smoke much, smoked half a pack in a short while. Boss, don't smoke anymore. It's not good for your health. And Yuan persuaded. He felt that when Ran was really an unlucky child. Unfortunately, if he hadn't offended his real boss, his boss might have taken him in, and his life would be much better than now. After getting through this difficulty, he had learned his lesson. His boss wouldn't care about it anymore. When Ran's eyes were a little hot. Cece hasn't suffered much. I've protected her so well that you guys are always bullied. Boss, why do you have to say this? I want to say it. Okay, go ahead. And Yuan didn't mind. As long as when Ran was earning money, he didn't mind Meng Shi's attitude at all. When Ran and Yuan chattered a lot for the whole night. At home, Meng Shi also came back to her senses. She even cooked and brought it to the company to see Wen Ran. When she arrived, she found Wen Ran and Yuan in the same office. At that time, Yuan was still covering the tired Wen Ran with a blanket. Yuan, I feel that something exciting is going to happen. I'm looking forward to it. Meng Shi was furious. She knew that Yuan, this shameless person, would definitely take advantage of the situation. At that time, she couldn't control herself and rushed over and slapped Yuan's face. Shameless. Don't think that I don't know your dirty thoughts. You just want to make things difficult for me and Wen Ran, right? If we get a divorce, you can be promoted, right? Dream on. Such a big commotion woke Wen Ran up. Wen Ran looked at the red palm print on Yuan's face and was completely furious. She shouted, Meng Shi, are you done? What do you want to do? Xiao Yuan, are you okay? Wen Ran was very guilty. I'm sorry. Boss, you guys have a good talk. I'll go out first. I won't disturb you guys. Yuan was about to leave, but he was stopped by Meng Shi. Why are you pretending? Today I'm going to expose your true colors. You clearly like Wen Ran, but you don't admit it. You're just waiting for an opportunity to take action, aren't you? You were hoping that our relationship wouldn't be good. Now that you heard that we were quarreling, you rushed to the company overnight to send warmth. You mistress, how can you be so shameless? You're a disgusting homosexual. The angry Meng Shi finally said. Wen Ran, if you come into contact with him, I'm afraid that his illness will spread to you. Yuan, very impressive. But he couldn't appear to be excited. He had to be sad and not say anything. Boss, I'm leaving first. Wen Ran finally couldn't hold back and wanted to slap Meng Shi, but Yuan stopped him. He couldn't hit Meng Shi. If Meng Shi cried and Wen Ran hit Meng Shi, he would feel guilty. You're not allowed to leave. If you want to leave, then don't ever come back. When Ran is my man. He's a married man. You better not have any strange thoughts. As long as I'm here you won't succeed, Mengshi said fearlessly. He even said to Wen Ran, hit him. If you have the ability, hit him. Is that enough? Wen Ran's face was livid. If it's enough then go back. What are you doing here? Mengshi, you're really too much. Half of this company belongs to Xiao Yuan. You don't have the right to make him leave. If anyone has to leave, it should be you. Besides, he didn't come to the company to see me. He came to work overtime to come up with a plan. Don't think of others as so dirty. In fact, when Ran had long known that An Yuan was special to him, he had asked Qin Liang about it last time. However, An Yuan usually didn't do anything out of line. All of this was just Mengshi's imagination. Even if Xiao Yuan's sexual orientation is different, your scolding is too vicious. When Ran had endured for a long time, didn't you like to talk about these things back then? You were so excited when you saw two men. Have you thought about how I'm going to face these brothers in the company in the future, when you scold Xiao Yuan like this? The peak. Chapter 46-31. Brother, you only know about your brother all day. Do you know what he's thinking? Mengshi had no intention of stopping. She pointed at An Yuan fiercely. He has dirty thoughts. Don't you feel disgusted by a brother who covets you at all times? Boss, I'll go back first. An Yuan felt that things had gone out of control. His mission was almost complete. Mengshi wanted to say something, but when Ran stopped her, he grabbed Mengshi tightly and said in a low voice, apologize to Xiao Yuan. Impossible. Mengshi sneered. He has bad intentions. Why should I apologize to someone who wants to be a mistress? Boss, forget it. An Yuan really left this time. He didn't want to continue entangling with Mengshi. A slap was enough to make Wen Ran angry. Wen Ran was a little helpless. Xiao Yuan, you go first. At this time, it was impossible to expect an apology from Mengshi. After An Yuan left, Mengshi calmed down, but she didn't feel that she had done anything wrong. Wen Ran let go of her and sat back in his seat. What do you want? I'm just protecting my marriage. Mengshi pursed her lips. I've long known about An Yuan's thoughts. If you don't want a divorce, let him leave the company. I'll watch. Then let's get a divorce. Mengshi was stunned. She didn't expect Wen Ran to be so decisive. Sure enough, you also have that kind of feelings for An Yuan, don't you? I knew it. There's definitely something between you two. You're disgusting. Wen Ran didn't want to explain. He was too tired. In the past few years after marriage he was really tired. He liked Mengshi, but they only liked each other. The so-called Mengshi accompanied him through thick and thin, but that was not the case. Ever since Mengshi was with him, he had never let her suffer. Even during the most difficult times, he had never mistreated Mengshi. Instead, he had let An Yuan down. No matter what An Yuan thought of him, the other party had no intention of revealing it. If he hadn't accidentally bumped into it and asked Qin Liang, he wouldn't have known about it. It could only be said that An Yuan hid it too well. After being humiliated by Mengshi time and time again, he couldn't stand it anymore and felt very sorry for An Yuan. Thinking about it carefully, the person who had really accompanied him through thick and thin was actually An Yuan. Since he was ignorant and incompetent, An Yuan had been by his side. An Yuan fought with him until his head bled. She repeated a year with him and got scolded. Later, something happened to his family. An Yuan followed him to study entrepreneurship and gave up his bright future to help him. Actually, at that time, with An Yuan's excellence, there were better choices. At the beginning of his business, An Yuan had put all his eggs in one basket and used all his money to start his business. Every day, he only slept for 3 hours. When he opened his eyes, he was already in the car, all for a few tens of thousands of yuan. An Yuan had contributed more to this company than he had, but he had never asked for anything in return. He had no interest in An Yuan, so even if he knew what An Yuan was thinking, he pretended not to know. He planned to give him more shares in the company. Unexpectedly, Mengshi somehow knew An Yuan's thoughts and refused to let him off. He even used his status to bully An Yuan. If Mengshi could not tolerate An Yuan, then he could only abandon Mengshi. I won't get a divorce. Mengshi grabbed her bag and was about to leave. When Rand's words reached her ears. I won't let Xiao Yuan leave. He owns half of this company, or even more. And the Meng family, you can deal with them yourself. From now on, I won't give them a single cent. Mengshi was angry and sad. But there was nothing she could do. Looking at Wen Rand's indifferent look, she was a little scared. She could only murmur, I won't get a divorce. I won't let others take advantage of me. And Yuan will never be promoted as long as I'm here. When Rand felt that Mengshi was crazy. The peak. Chapter 46-32. Mengshi was still thinking about how to make Yuan retreat in the face of difficulties. But she didn't know that Yuan was already planning to retreat. Boss, actually we've overestimated Mengshi. With her situation, she'll fall out with Wen Rand sooner or later. Tang Guo was choosing jewelry. She was about to get married, so of course she had to choose beautiful ones. I just want her to distance herself. I don't mean anything else. It doesn't matter if she falls out or not. Boss, I plan to make a few big projects in the company and then retire. What do you think? Tang Guo said. Sure, it's time to retire. You were slapped for nothing before. If you stay, this kind of thing will happen again. Even if she was a paper person, she was still one of her people. She couldn't stand being bullied. I'll ask my fiancé to give you a project. When the time comes, you can take over. He'll introduce a few more people to you. Whether you can get it or not depends on your ability. When the time came, and Yuan would definitely be able to get the shares. It would not be a loss. He could also make Wen Rand feel guilty and Mengshi suffer. It was worth it. And Yuan rubbed his hands. Thank you, boss. You're really my dear boss. In 3 months, and Yuan and the people of the Xia Corporation met and got a big project. Through the Xia Corporation's connections, he got a few other important projects. When the company was celebrating, and Yuan and Wen Rand mentioned that they planned to leave the company, this caught everyone off guard. Now that the company is thriving and there are so many talents, I can leave with peace of mind. There shouldn't be any problems on your side, boss, and Yuan said. I was too tired before. I want to rest and visit the world. I'm an orphan. I've lived for nearly 30 years, but I haven't gone out yet. It's always a pity. When Rand finally understood why Yuan had been working so hard recently and got so many projects for the company, it turned out that he was planning to leave, but he was worried. Boss, transfer my shares to the shares that you can get. After all, traveling around the world requires money. I'll consider it an early retirement. And Yuan rubbed his hands. He had been waiting for this day for a long time. With his projects and connections in the past few months, and when Rand's ability, this company was stable. When Rand persuaded him, and so did everyone. And Yuan said, if it's shares, it's okay to give me less as long as I can travel around the world. Seeing that Yuan did not change his mind, when Rand could only let him go. In the end, Yuan left with a rather good portion of the shares. No one had any objections because he was worth it. The current situation of this company would only get better and better. If Yuan did not give up, the shares he held would be more profitable than the shares he held. Mengshi finally thought of a way to deal with Yuan, which was to introduce a boyfriend to him. And Yuan was invited out. When he saw the handsome man beside Mengshi, he was speechless. Did he really think that Mengshi liked men? No, he only likes to travel around the world. I've already resigned from my position in the company. And Yuan smiled faintly. You don't have to worry about it in the future. I don't want to do anything to boss. I don't want my existence to make boss's marriage unhappy. Also, I hope you can take good care of him in the future. Don't cause any trouble. Boss has a hard time. Mengshi was still immersed in the fact that Yuan was going to leave the company, so he didn't react when he heard this. There's no need for a boyfriend. I'll leave tomorrow. Without giving Mengshi a chance to react, Yuan left. When Rand knew about their conversation, of course he was worried about Mengshi. He didn't expect to hear this. Vertex. Chapter 46-33. Boss, Yuan is really kind. Your wife is really insensible. If Yuan had stayed in the company, Qin Liang saw that when Rand was in a bad mood, and knew that he was also sad. He was too embarrassed to continue speaking. I know you don't want it to be like this. And Yuan told us to be more tolerant. As long as she treats you well in the future and doesn't cause trouble, we can pretend that we didn't see it. I'm sorry. And Yuan's departure made Wen Ran's feelings for Meng Shi fade a little. And Yuan really went to travel around the world earlier than Seng Chen, which made Seng Chen envious. Seeing this, Seng Chen quickly trained some capable subordinates and reunited with Yuan in less than 2 years. And Yuan didn't send Wen Ran any updates about his travels around the world, but he would update his WeChat moments. Wen Ran would often look at them. He really didn't mean anything else. He was just very emotional about this matter and felt extremely guilty. However, seeing that Yuan was doing well, he slowly felt relieved. However, he was discovered by Meng Shi once when he looked at Yuan's WeChat moments. The two of them quarreled again. When Ran was relatively calm, he said to Meng Shi slowly, "Because of you, I lost my best brother. Actually, we're not that compatible, Meng Shi." Meng Shi was suddenly stunned. She grabbed Wen Ran and cried, asking him if he really liked Yuan. Wen Ran was very annoyed. He didn't like Yuan. He only saw Yuan as his brother. Why did Meng Shi always not believe him? Wen Ran, let's have a child, Meng Shi said. Wen Ran refused. Our situation is not suitable for a child. We can't give him a happy life. It's a sin to give birth to him. If you want to use a child to bind our feelings, this is not advisable. A child should be the crystallization of love. You shouldn't use a child to bind this broken relationship. You secretly helped the Meng family again, right? When Ran suddenly changed the topic. The jewelry and bags that I bought for you every year, you sold them all. Meng Shi, do you think a small family like ours can still continue? When Ran took out a divorce agreement. Sign it. Half of the assets under my name will be yours. I won't treat you badly. No. Meng Shi shook her head. When Ran said, then file for divorce. The feelings between him and Meng Shi had almost been obliterated. After so many years, he suddenly understood that Meng Shi valued herself the most, not him. She was the only one who believed it, not him. As long as she believed it, it was right. If this continued, he was afraid that he would lose the rest of his brothers. He really felt ashamed to face this group of people who had followed him to build his empire. Regardless of whether Meng Shi agreed or not, when Ran had already made up his mind. 2 years later, the marriage finally ended. Meng Shi left with half of his assets. When Ran became single again and reunited with his former brothers. He even informed Yuan. The group of people gathered together, and it was as if they had all been relieved at the beginning. When Meng Shi moved into the empty house with the property, the Meng family knew about it and moved in one after another. The Meng family squandered more than half of the money in her hands in a few years. When Meng Shi came back to her senses, she was faced with the Meng family's accusations again. She cried and quarreled with the Meng family, asking them to move out. However, the Meng family was shameless and insisted on pestering her. They even wanted to introduce some ugly people to her. Without Wen Ran's help, Meng Shi couldn't get rid of the Meng family. On this day, Meng Shi was watching TV and happened to see a few familiar faces. She took a closer look and saw that the 3 familiar faces were Tang Gua, Xie Fan, and Wen Ran. Tang Gua and Xie Fan sat together, holding hands and looking very loving. Wen Ran was still the elegant man, but he was more mature. When the host asked him if he had any plans to find a spouse, he said, I'm pursuing her, but I don't know if she's willing. After all, it's my second marriage, and I'm not worthy of such a good girl. The host said, It seems that today's interview is full of dog food. I thought that President Xie and Mrs. Xie would feed the 2 single dogs today, but it turns out that I'm the only single dog. Okay, back to the topic. As far as I know, President Xie and President Wen will have a big cooperation this time. I wonder if you can reveal a little. Meng Shi's mind was only filled with Wen Ran's words. He was pursuing a girl and was afraid that he wasn't worthy. Wen Ran is not within Yuan. Meng Shi broke down and shouted. Half a year later, Meng Shi was unwilling to leave the house after watching Wen Ran's wedding of the century. She was in a trance. The Meng family wanted to get the house under her name and sent her to a mental hospital on the grounds that she was mentally ill. When Tang Gua heard the news, she only grunted, and her expression was very indifferent. In this life, Tang Guo was a salted fish, but she always appeared on many important occasions. She was the most important person among the three famous entrepreneurs. She was Xiefan's wife, Yang Yushuan's daughter, and Yang Ji's sister. Later, the three of them published their autobiographies. In their autobiographies, they realized that this salted fish was not a salted fish at all, but an expert hiding behind others. She was smart and wise. She had silently helped the three of them through some difficulties and crises countless times. Many of the major changes in the situation were her handiwork, which made the people who came after her take a big bite of the melon. The Peak. Chapter 46-34. Margaret. I'm looking forward to it, Shangguan Yungu. Senior Margaret, I think. Margaret. Go away. If you don't know how to speak, cut off your tongue. Shangguan Yungu. Actually, I have an idea. Whether or not Uncle Master will go to Senior Margaret's world, we just need to compare the flow of time to our world. From Empress Dowager Chen's experience, we can conclude that if Uncle Master goes to that world, when he goes to the next world, the flow of time there will be faster. Senior Margaret, do you want to compare? Margaret. I don't think there's a need. Mo Yuntian. Yungu, you can't wake up a person who's always pretending to be asleep. You'd better hurry up and think of a way to get out of that weird, women-only mystic realm. Shangguan Yungu. Master, I'm trying. Gua. Are you satisfied now? That kid's talent is not bad. Since you like him, then let's get engaged for now. No matter what, you're still my daughter. I can't really hold a Tao companion ceremony with a mere mystic immortal immediately. Your father and I aren't afraid of being laughed at by the immortal world. But the immortal world prioritizes strength. If he doesn't have the corresponding cultivation level to match, it won't be a good thing for him to become Tao companions with you now. So when he becomes an immortal lord, I'll personally prepare a Tao companion ceremony for you too. Tang Guo listened to all this in a daze. Her mood wasn't too good. She got engaged as soon as she arrived. Fortunately, she wasn't married yet. Then, if they got married in the future, it wouldn't be considered a second marriage, right? The voice just now was very gentle. She could even hear some kindness in it. So, she should have a pair of good parents in this world. Your father is doing this for your own good. Don't be unhappy. There are too many variables in the immortal world. This isn't just a test for him. It's also a test for you. If Guar doesn't like him one day, or if he does something bad, there's still room for redemption. You're still young and don't know how sinister people can be. This was a very gentle female voice. It should be her body's mother. Hearing these two's words, because it was just an engagement, the original owner didn't seem too satisfied. Tang Guo hurriedly glanced at the two of them and saw their expectant look. She knew that the original owner was not happy with this treatment, so she did not say anything and maintained her original expression. Tang Wanqing sighed. With our family Tang's resources, that day won't be long. This is the biggest concession I can make. Yunichen's talent was indeed not bad, and his character was tenacious. This was also the reason why Tang Wanqing did not completely oppose him. As long as this brat cultivated to the immortal monarch realm, his daughter would like him, and he would be willing to protect him as he grew up. In the future, he would personally hold a Tao companion ceremony for them. Tang Guo was instantly displeased. Who was this person who wanted to use her family's resources before they were even married? This face seemed to be very big. Without her memories, she didn't dare to express her true thoughts. Seeing the expectant look on their faces, she could only reluctantly say, "Understood." She noticed that Tang Wanqing and the beautiful woman beside him were smiling. Obviously, they were relieved. Tang Guo could already feel that her body was filled with energy. This was a cultivation world, so her cultivation should be pretty good. In this body, her soul power did not need to be suppressed as much as in the previous world. This showed that the cultivation of this body was pretty good. Chapter 46-35. She could see the cultivation level of the couple in front of her at a glance. Their cultivation level was much higher than hers, but the couple didn't notice her abnormality. She was clearly occupying this body, so as cultivators, They should be able to notice the abnormality. However, they didn't seem to notice anything. This wasn't the first time she encountered such a situation. She had experienced many such situations, but she couldn't find the answer for now. Tangwa didn't think too much about it. After greeting the two of them, she said that she wanted to return to her room. Under the guidance of the system, she returned to her residence. Along the way, she could feel the rich immortal energy. This feeling of power filling her body made her feel very comfortable. The scenery along the way was pretty good. Occasionally, she could see some spirit beasts that had gained intelligence. For example, fish playing in the pond and birds flying around in the air. I've already noticed it. Previously, the two of them had revealed that they would only be allowed to become Tao companions with Yunyi-chen after he cultivated to the immortal monarch realm. Currently, the two of them were only engaged. She felt that the original owner's parents were really smart. Returning to the room, the furnishings inside were all treasures. The couple's cultivation level was very high, so their status in the immortal world was probably very high. There was a small pearl in the room. If she took it out, it would be a treasure that people would fight over. Tangwa sat down and started to receive the memories. Her identity in this world was one of the 8 great immortal emperors of the immortal world. She was the only daughter of Emperor Qing, Tang Wanqing. She could be considered as a second-generation immortal. Because her genes were too good, she was born in the mystic immortal realm. With the support of her identity, she could be considered a true genius. Her mother, Han Ro, wasn't bad either. She was one of the best in the immortal monarch realm. She was just a little bit away from becoming an immortal emperor. With such an identity, even a fool would be able to live comfortably. Not to mention, she had inherited the talent of Tang Wanqing and his wife. Her personality was pure, and her heart was free of distractions. Her cultivation was twice the result with half the effort. In fact, she was only in her early 20s, but she was already a perfected golden immortal. Her cultivation speed was envied by others. The ranks of the immortal world were Earth Immortal, Heaven Immortal, Mystic Immortal, Perfected Immortal, Perfected Golden Immortal, Immortal Monarch, and Immortal Emperor. It would take at least a few hundred years to advance a realm. She was only in her early 20s, but she had already advanced from Xian Immortal to Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. With such a background, she should have been smooth sailing. Unfortunately, one time she went out, she met the person who was destined to bring her disaster, Yunyi-chen. Yunyi-chen had ascended from the lower realm. His appearance was handsome, and his mannerisms were no worse than the second generation of immortals in the immortal world. As soon as he appeared, he attracted the attention of the original owner. Yunyi-chen had a proud personality, and was not the kind of person who liked to back down. After ascending to the celestial world, he had caused trouble. This person was very decisive and ruthless. As long as he was bullied, he would fight back with all his might. The impression he gave others was that he was a lunatic who didn't care about his life. When the original owner met Yunyi-chen, it was him who had a conflict with someone else. Indeed, the other party was unreasonable, and Yunyi-chen couldn't tolerate it. Both parties fought, and ended up with both sides suffering. After getting to know the original owner, Yunyi-chen's life became much better. Gradually, the original owner fell in love with Yunyi-chen. Later, the original owner and Yunyi-chen got engaged. However, the original owner's parents didn't approve of them becoming Tao companions immediately. They only agreed to their engagement. If they wanted to become Tao companions, they would have to wait until Yunyi-chen reached the immortal monarch realm. The original owner compromised. Yunyi-chen also agreed. However, all the beautiful feelings were just the original owner's imagination. Chapter 46-36. Yunyi-chen treated the original owner well, because he wanted to borrow the original owner's protection. He had offended too many people in the immortal world, and there were also many people who wanted to kill him. He only had cultivation in his heart, becoming an immortal, attaining the Tao, and becoming a sage. As long as it was helpful for him to attain the Tao and become a sage, he would marry the original owner and become Tao companions. Although, he did not like the original owner. As long as the original owner did not affect his Tao, he did not mind treating the original owner well to obtain the family's resources for cultivation. Whether it was the original owner's family or the people of the immortal world, no one knew that Yunyi-chen had a special experience. He was born in the lower realm and was not a proud son of heaven. Instead, he was a trash who could not cultivate. His parents despised him and called him useless. In the family, he was a trash that everyone could bully and humiliate. During his days in the family, he was humiliated, beaten, and scolded by the other people in the family every day because he was a trash who could not cultivate. His heart was filled with anger and despair. He did not have the talent for cultivation, so no matter how angry he was, he could not vent it. He could only silently endure and live like a dog. Until one of his adventures, he was not destined to die. He inadvertently obtained a cultivation technique and ushered in a different life. This cultivation technique was called the emotion severing technique. To cultivate this cultivation technique, one had to cut off all worldly feelings, family, love, and friendship. One could not be aroused. Once one was aroused, one's Tao heart would be shaken. With hope in front of him, Yunyi-chen did not care about what he had to cut off. He only knew that this was his only chance to turn things around, so he did not hesitate to choose to cultivate. The first thing that the emotion-severing technique needed to sever was family ties. This was not difficult for Yunyi-chen at all. Those who were related to him by blood wanted nothing more than for him to die. They did not treat him as a person at all. So what if he abandoned them? Everyone in the family thought that Yunyi-chen was dead, but they did not know that he had a fortuitous encounter. Yunyi-chen planned to cultivate first, as he did not want to go back and be humiliated by those people. Because there was no family in his heart, his cultivation speed was very fast. In just 5 short years, his cultivation had reached the middle level in the cultivation world. At least in his small family, no one could bully him. Thus he decided to go back and end this relationship. In one night, he slaughtered everyone in his family, including those who were related to him by blood. No one in the Yun family was left alive. Of course, he was also seriously injured. After all, he was not considered a top expert. After exterminating the Yin family, he ran into the wilderness and finally fainted. At this time, a person appeared beside him. This person was the female lead of this world, Wei Xian. Wei Xian picked up Yunyi-chen and brought him back. Seeing that he was heavily injured and almost lost his life, he carefully treated his injuries. When Yunyi-chen woke up, he was still very vigilant. At first, he planned to kill Wei Xian to silence him. However, under Wei Xian's careful care, he gradually let down his guard. Not only did he lower his guard, he even had a good impression of Wei Xian. Wei Xian's gentleness moved his heart. Naturally, he married Wei Xian. The two of them loved each other for 10 years like an immortal couple. Yunyi-chen's cultivation was also constantly increasing and breaking through. Finally, he was only one step away from becoming an immortal and ascending. However, this step was difficult for him. This was because he was facing the second stage of the emotion-severing technique, which was to cut off his love. Only by cutting off his love could he become an immortal and ascend. Otherwise, he would never be able to ascend, and could only spend the rest of his life in the mortal world. Yunyi-chen walked this step for many years, before finally deciding to cut off his relationship with Wei Xian. The Peak. Chapter 46-37. In the beginning, he decided to stay away from Wei Xian for a few years. However, he still couldn't break through and ascend. Only then did he know that only with Wei Xian's death could he truly sever his ties with her. After hesitating for a while, he still made the same decision. He couldn't give up on the path of immortality, and had to sever his ties with Wei Xian. Perhaps because he felt guilty, he returned to Wei Xian's side, and said that he had mistakenly entered the secret realm. Because of his gentleness, Wei Xian didn't question this. He and Wei Xian had been in love for 20 years. When he felt that it was about time, he brought Wei Xian to the place where they first met. However, he didn't know that Wei Xian was pregnant. He killed Wei Xian with one sword, and buried her in the cave where he obtained the severing emotions technique. After severing his ties with Wei Xian, he indeed instantly felt the pull from the immortal world and ascended. However, he didn't know that the cave where he buried Wei Xian still had a thread of life. That thread of life saved Wei Xian's life. Not long after he ascended, Wei Xian revived and the child in her womb was saved. Wei Xian lost her memories. Perhaps she subconsciously didn't dare to believe that her husband, who had been in love with her for so many years, would kill her, without hesitation in order to ascend. Yunyi-chen ascended to the immortal world, and started a new life. Wei Xian, who had lost her memories in the lower realm, knew that she was pregnant and planned to give birth to the child. However, because her life had been severed and she revived, the child shouldn't be saved. However, she subconsciously didn't want to lose the child. The thread of life in the cave protected her child. However, if she wanted to give birth to the child, it would take a long time. It might take a few years, decades, or centuries for the child to be born in her womb. Wei Xian didn't want to abort the child, so she cultivated with the child. On the day she ascended to the immortal world, she actually used the power of the immortal pool to fully gestate the child and give birth to the child. This matter became a miracle in the world of immortals. When Wei Xian ascended to the immortal world, Yunyi-chen was already in the golden immortal realm. He was one step away from the immortal monarch realm and would become Tao companions with the original owner. When he stepped into the immortal monarch realm and was about to become Tao companions with the original owner of the body, he met Wei Xian in the immortal world. The moment he saw Wei Xian, all he wanted to do was kill him. Wei Xian's appearance had shaken his Tao heart. Later on, he realized that Wei Xian didn't recognize him. Out of curiosity, he followed him and realized that there was a child beside Wei Xian. This child looked very much like him when he was young. Yunyi-chen understood from the child's bloodline that this was his child. He wanted to kill the mother and son pair, but he couldn't find any opportunity to do so. Just when he was hesitating, the mother and son were in danger, and he saved them without hesitation. When they met again, Yunyi-chen's Tao heart was completely messed up. Especially the kindness from the mother and son. He was completely unable to do anything. He even had to constantly protect them and help them resolve all kinds of dangers. He didn't plan to kill them, but accidents happened again. Of course, Wei Xian had many suitors. One of them was about to move Wei Xian. When Yunyi-chen found out, he couldn't accept it at all. Hence, he decided to kill that suitor. The other party didn't die, but was seriously injured. When Wei Xian found out, she naturally felt that he was unreasonable and wanted to chase him away. Yunyi-chen seemed to have gone crazy. As long as someone appeared beside Wei Xian, he would beat that person up. Peak. He used a secret technique and planned to return to the past and start over with Wei Xian. Wei Xian seemed to have sensed it. At that moment, he also used a blood curse, indicating that he couldn't be together with Yunyi-chen for the rest of his life. In the end, they encountered the same thing for the rest of their lives. The original owner of the body, who was an innocent second-generation immortal, also had the same ending every time. This Wei Xian's temper is really fierce. When she saw that Wei Xian didn't die, Tangua thought that she might get back together with Yunyi-chen in the future. At that time, she would chase him to the crematorium and then clear her name. However, the result was different from what she thought. Wei Xian didn't want to forgive the scumbag. She would rather have the same ending for the rest of her life than be together with the scumbag. Actually, it's easy to solve. Tangua laughed. It made the system's hair stand on end. As long as his soul is destroyed, how can he live for the rest of his life? Tongzi, don't you think so? It's just that destroying his soul is a bit too easy for him. Is there a better way? Top point. Chapter 4639. After reading through all the memories, Tangua went to the group. She scrolled through the records and appeared. Everyone, I've arrived in a new world. It's not a magical world, is it? The school bell didn't look for me immediately, and I didn't feel time passing faster here. It's a cultivation world. I'm a second-generation immortal now, and I have a lot of treasures. When I have time, I'll organize them and send you some specialties. I've already gotten used to it. It's okay, I can still wait. School bell, tell me the story of that world. Margaret, have you gotten used to life and death? What can I do if I don't? The god of creation never opens the door, and the school bell can't find the way even if she wants to. After Tang Guo finished telling everyone the story, she left the group and returned to reality. She organized the things in her room, found some specialties of the celestial world, and sent them to the group. Then she began to calculate the time. It hadn't been long since Yuni-chen ascended to the celestial world. Because he was able to ascend because he severed his love, he had a lot of stamina. In a short time, he advanced from the earth immortal realm to the mystic immortal realm. In the eyes of the people in the celestial world, this kind of cultivation speed was already very talented. According to the original development, when the original owner and Yuni-chen got engaged at this time, in addition to the cultivation resources given by the family Tang, the original owner would also give Yuni-chen all kinds of cultivation resources and treasures from time to time. Perhaps because he was bullied badly when he was young, Yuni-chen had a strong desire for power. As long as it could make him stronger, he would not refuse it. As for the face of taking a woman's things, he didn't care about it. From the memories that Tang was sorted out, the original owner didn't know how many resources Yuni-chen had given. Now that it was her, of course, she couldn't give him any more resources. How many resources Yuni-chen could get would depend on his own cultivation performance. Because of the follow-up development, she couldn't suddenly hate Yuni-chen and bully him for no reason, so as not to ruin her parents' reputation. In the world of immortals, there was also the concept of public opinion. If she bullied Yuni-chen and teased him when she was in the wrong, her parents' opponents would most likely create some public opinion, saying that Emperor Qing bullied and teased the young man who had just ascended. The Azure Arch might not care about this. After all, he was very powerful and one of the 8 thearchs of the celestial world. However, Tang Guo would feel aggrieved if she was given such a bad reputation for no reason. Therefore, it was better to let things continue to develop. When the time came, Yuni-chen's true colors would be revealed. Yuni-chen was heartless, selfish, and cold-hearted. No matter if it was someone as gentle as water like Wei Xian, or someone as pure as the original host, he couldn't be moved. I heard from the maids that Guo has been in the room all day and hasn't gone to look for Yi-chen. This is really rare. Tang Guo didn't go out to look for Yuni-chen, but Han Ro was worried. She thought that Tang Guo was sulking in the room, so she came to take a look. Seeing that Tang Guo's expression didn't change, she was relieved. Yi-chen's talent is not bad. It won't take long for the two of you to officially become Dao companions. In the world of immortals, there are countless people who get engaged first, and only become Dao companions after hundreds or thousands of years. Now that you don't understand, it's not a bad thing to take this opportunity to understand. Han Ro thought that Tang Guo didn't go out because of this. Tang Guo stood up and hugged Han Ro's arm. Mother, you're right. I've thought it through. You've really thought it through? Han Ro didn't believe it. Her daughter had been spoiled since she was young. It would be strange if she wasn't angry for half a month. Peak. Chapter 4640. Tang Guo tried her best to persuade Han Ro. Finally, Han Ro believed that she didn't mind and was relieved. It's good that you understand. Now that you're engaged, you can spend more time with each other and see if this person is suitable. Han Ro was actually not very satisfied with Yuni-chen. Although he was talented and obedient to Tang Guo, he rarely rejected her requests. She felt that it wasn't love. She didn't insist on this aspect. If they spent more time together, they might have feelings for each other. If they really didn't have feelings for each other in the end, there would be so many variables. She didn't have to marry her daughter to him. Han Ro didn't stay for long. Seeing that Tang Guo wasn't angry anymore, she left. In the celestial world, the most important thing was still strength. Han Ro had been stuck in the immortal Lord realm for many years. She was only one step away from the immortal Emperor realm. However, she couldn't take this step no matter what. This was also why there were only 8 immortal emperors since the birth of the celestial world. There were countless immortal lords, and their strength varied. For a veteran immortal lord like Han Ro, it was easy for her to defeat 10 of them. Those newly advanced immortal lords might not even be able to survive one move in her hands. She had to go back and comprehend, and strive to advance to the immortal emperor realm as soon as possible. After Han Ro left, Tang Guo also began to cultivate. There was nothing to do now. Yuni-chen was cultivating, and Wei Xian in the lower realm was probably also resurrected and cultivating with the child. She was currently in the golden immortal realm, and she was still far from the immortal lord realm. It was better to cultivate first. Tang Guo first cultivated casually for 2 days. Then, she told the maid that she had some enlightenment and planned to go into seclusion. After Tang Wanqing heard about this, he was a little surprised. Seclusion? That's rare. It seems that she really had an epiphany. That's good. She doesn't have to spend all her time on Yuni-chen. I feel that Yuni-chen is a little cold to Guo. Han Ro's face was full of worry. Brother Qing, this matter still needs to be discussed. Do you think I can't see it? Otherwise, why would I only let them get engaged? Yuni-chen is talented, but he doesn't care that much about Guo. Only Guo likes him wholeheartedly. That's why I didn't object too much and used the engagement to appease her. Even if Yuni-chen was talented, it would still take him many years to reach the immortal monarch realm. After so many years, it was enough for Guo to see what kind of person he was. Guo is my daughter. If you don't want to become Dao companions with him in the future, you can just break off the marriage. Tang Wanqing said domineeringly. From the beginning, he didn't have much hope for Yuni-chen. He just didn't want to have a conflict with his daughter. At that time, that girl's mind would be muddled, and she would run away with Yuni-chen. His intestines would turn green. He might as well admit it on the surface and appease her. Hundreds of years, thousands of years, there were many variables in between. In the future, his daughter might not like Yuni-chen anymore. Tang Wanqing and Han Ro's plan was indeed good. However, they never expected that Yuni-chen was a heartless person who would directly hurt their daughter in the future. Xiao Guo is in seclusion. Yuni-chen was stunned when he heard the news. Ever since he met Tang Guo, she would hang around him every day. Of course, when he was cultivating seriously, she wouldn't disturb him when he was in seclusion. However, she would always prepare some food and wait outside for him to come out. Sometimes she would wait for many days. He was a little used to seeing her waiting outside every time he came out. There were many reasons why he was willing to interact with Tang Guo. Peak. If the people outside knew about this, they would probably die of anger. B. N. Your mother also had some enlightenment. She has been in seclusion for more than 10 years. It was very normal for an immortal lord to go into seclusion to comprehend. From an immortal lord realm to an immortal lord realm, one could not just casually comprehend and advance. Tang Wanqing suddenly thought of something. You didn't go to see Yuni-chen, right? His daughter was not so interested in Yuni-chen, but Tang Wanqing was actually happy. He did not feel that there was anything wrong with his daughter liking anyone, but he did not agree. He was wholeheartedly focused on that person. Father, how do you know? Advancing is such a big matter. Of course, I have to share it with father and mother first. I will look for Brother Ichin later. Chapter 46-42. I'm afraid you won't be able to find him. Ichin went out to train. Tang Wanqing didn't want to say it, but it was useless. His daughter would know soon. Tang Guo knew, but she still pretended to be surprised. Father, when did Brother Ichin go out to train? I was planning to go with him. Why didn't he wait for me? You were in seclusion, so he couldn't disturb you. It's a good thing to go out to train when you've reached a bottleneck. Don't worry, I've arranged 2 people for him. They're both Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals. There won't be any danger. Oh, that's good. Tang Guo was actually not very happy. How could he be so kind as to arrange 2 bodyguards for her? Father, I also want to go and gain experience. I want to see if I can meet Brother Ichin. Tang Wanqing didn't stop her. It was as if he had expected this. He was about to say that he would arrange 2 bodyguards for Tang Guo, when he suddenly remembered that she was already a Monarch Heaven Golden Immortal. Before he could say anything, Tang Guo said, I won't bring anyone this time. With my current strength, I won't be able to escape from you 8 great immortal emperors. It's still easy for me to escape from other monarchs. Tang Wanqing thought the same. However, he still picked out many life-saving treasures from the warehouse and stuffed them into Tang Guo's hands. He insisted that she refine these things before she could leave. Tang Guo didn't refuse. She was very willing to accept the kindness of her father. The reason why Yinyi could injure the original owner was that she wasn't prepared. She didn't believe that Yinyi would hurt her. Not only did she not have time to fight back, but she also didn't use the treasures on her. At that time, they were both Monarch Heaven Golden Immortals. If they really fought, the original owner's treasures would have killed him. Not to mention, the original owner wasn't weak. It was just that she couldn't escape from love. After Tang Guo refined all the treasures, Tang Wanqing finally let her go. As for the fact that Tang Guo had already advanced to the immortal monarch realm, Tang Wanqing didn't announce it. He also told Tang Guo not to announce it casually. Tang Guo also had the same intention. Under Tang Wanqing's reluctant gaze, she went out to train by herself. Tang Wanqing still wanted her to bring him along, but she found it troublesome and didn't want to. It was mainly because she had brought someone along, so it was not convenient for her to do things. This time, she wasn't really going out to train. She was going to see Wei Xian. In this world, it was possible for the immortal realm to descend to the mortal realm. However, it was more difficult to open a space. Generally, no one would do such a thankless task. Tang Guo wanted to see Wei Xian mainly because she wanted him to cultivate faster and come to the immortal world earlier to get rid of that trash, Yinyi. Tang Guo found a relatively desolate place. The immortal qi in this place was thin, and immortals did not like to wander around here. Then she began to set up a formation. She had countless treasures in her possession, so it would not be a problem for her to use them to support the passageway to the lower realm. The second generation of immortals is not bad. Just setting up the array took Tang Guo half a month. The moment the array was activated, she felt a suction force from the tunnel. She first put on a magic treasure, and then covered herself with a layer of immortal energy before jumping into the passageway. Indeed, there was a strong pressure in the space. Even though she had the body of an immortal, she could feel that the power was constantly trying to tear her body apart. She was well prepared, so nothing happened. However, after exiting the tunnel, she was covered in dust. She didn't look like an immortal descending to the mortal realm. Peak. Chapter 46-43. As for the floating immortal aura, there was none at all. It was already good enough that she didn't eat a mouthful of dust. The place where Tang Guo appeared was also very desolate. She used a cleaning spell to get rid of the dust on her body, and she became clean again. Her consciousness covered a radius of 50 kilometers, and she instantly appeared in front of a cultivator. That cultivator was so scared that his face turned pale, and he said while trembling, May I know, Senior, what can I do for you? Where did this almighty come from? How did she appear in front of him in the blink of an eye? Where is Spinning Top Mountain? The cultivator heaved a sigh of relief. So she was asking for directions. Wiping the cold sweat on his forehead, the cultivator hurriedly pointed the way for Tang Guo. He was afraid that she wouldn't understand, so he drew a map. Tang Guo took the map and instantly disappeared in front of the cultivator's eyes. The cultivator trembled and didn't know what to say. His legs were weak. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly felt that something was wrong with his hand. He opened his palm and saw a ring lying on it. Sensing that the ring wasn't ordinary, he hurriedly hid it and ran quickly. Not long after, Tang Guo found the location of Spinning Top Mountain. The reason why she came here was because this was the cave where Wei Xian lived. At this time, she didn't know whether Wei Xian was in the cave or not, but he would come back eventually. She just had to wait here. Tang Guo found the location of the cave. Someone had set up a restriction, so this thing didn't exist in her eyes. She walked into the cave and subconsciously scanned the surroundings. With this scan, she realized that this cave was a bit unusual. On the surface, the cave looked very desolate, but she felt that there was a layer of restriction underground. It didn't seem like an ordinary restriction, but more like an immortal's method. She probed the restriction with her consciousness and instantly felt a little curious. She wanted to force open the restriction to see what was going on. This place could let Yunyi Chen pick up a cultivation technique and also let the dead Wei Xian come back to life. It definitely wasn't that simple. Just as she was removing the restriction, she suddenly felt a force attacking from underground. She instantly raised her guard and blocked this attack. Fellow immortal, are you from the immortal world? Hearing the sound coming from underground, Tang Guo was silent for a moment. So there were people living here? Then Wei Xian's revival wouldn't be a simple matter. This person must have helped. How could it be so coincidental that he would come across a life force and revive? Fellow immortal, are you also from the immortal world? Tang Guo didn't have the intention to continue probing the restrictions. Since there were already people here, it wouldn't be good to continue probing. Hearing Tang Guo's question, the man was silent for a moment before answering. I used to be. It's been a long time since I returned to the immortal world. Tang Guo was not interested in other people's stories. She found a place to sit down and said, I'm sorry. I thought there was no one there, so I moved just now. I know. Fellow immortal, you don't have any ill intentions. Fellow immortal, you're full of treasures, so you don't need this place. The corners of Tang Guo's mouth twitched. What was that supposed to mean? Fellow immortal, why have you come here? That person might have been lonely for many years and didn't have anyone to talk to. Seeing that someone had suddenly come, he finally had someone to talk to and wanted to chat with Tang Guo. Tang Guo saw that Wei Xian didn't have any intention of coming back for the time being. Since he wanted to chat, then let's chat. I'm here to find someone. Tang Guo didn't hide anything. She lives here. You should know her, Wei Xian. That voice fell silent again. Does Wei Xian have any grudges with fellow immortal? No, she has some fate with me. I see. She's a pitiful person. That voice sighed. Perhaps fellow immortal can undo the shackles of her fate. When Tang Guo heard that, she understood that this person's realm should be very high and he might know something. Top point. Chapter 46-44. What shackles of destiny? Tang Guo asked. That person was silent for a while before saying, Since fellow immortal is here, you must have some understanding of it. When Tang Guo heard this, she laughed. It seems that I can't hide anything from you. Yes, I did come for this matter. Since you can calculate all this, you must be very powerful, right? I don't know why you didn't stay in the immortal world and stayed in the mortal world. Fellow immortal, are you staying here because of the shackles of destiny? Tang Guo guessed this because the other party knew too much. She really didn't believe that such a powerful person would help Wei Xian so many times out of sympathy. From what the other party said, he hoped that she could really resolve this dispute of destiny. Fellow immortal, do you know someone called Yunyi Chen? The voice asked. Tang Guo didn't hide it. I do. What's your relationship with this person? There's no special relationship. We're considered neighbors. At this point, he introduced himself. My name is Jiang Zilin. Tang Guo tried to recall this name in her mind, but couldn't find anything related to this name for the time being. It could be some unknown hermit expert, or it could be that too much time had passed, and there were no legends of him in the immortal world. Yunyi Chen's encounter wasn't a coincidence. Jiang Zilin didn't let Tang Guo wait for too long and continued. Yunyi Chen's encounter should be due to a scheme. It's not easy to calculate the details, but this person's existence was indeed to scheme against me. Scheme against you? Tang Guo was shocked. She originally thought that it was a simple story of killing one's wife for the sake of cultivation, but now it seemed that it wasn't so simple. Yes, he was scheming against me. He wanted to scheme against my inheritance. Jiang Zilin paused for a while and said 4 words that shocked Tang Guo. The inheritance of becoming a sage. The inheritance of becoming a sage? As a second-generation immortal, Tang Guo naturally knew what this meant. It meant that the person who obtained the inheritance of becoming a sage would have a greatly increased chance of becoming a sage. Desolate Book Room. It was said that many years ago, after the great calamity of heaven and earth, the sages had all fallen to protect this world. If it weren't for the sacrifice of those saints, this world would have long ceased to exist. Aren't you afraid that if I find out about such an important matter, I'll also scheme against you for the inheritance of becoming a saint? Is fellow immortal interested in this? I can give you one if you want. Tangua's heart was very subtle. Are you joking? The inheritance of becoming a saint was not something that could be given away so easily. If those people who were scheming were to find out about this, they would be angered to death. I'm not joking. Jiang Zilin's voice was serious and solemn. If you need it, I can give it to you now. Tangua refused. Not for the time being. Let's make things clear first. Fellow immortal, there's no need to be afraid. You and I are fated to be together. Sooner or later, I'll have to give it to you. Tangua felt that the conversation was getting more and more out of hand. What did he mean by sooner or later? She had an idea in her mind. You want to take me as your disciple? No, that's not what I meant. Jiang Zilin hurriedly said. There was a hint of panic in his tone, as if he was afraid that Tangua would misunderstand. There is no fate between us. Then you said that we are fated to be together? Could it be that this is the fate of becoming a sage? If I accept your inheritance, then wouldn't it be the inheritance of becoming a master and disciple? This can also not be a master and disciple. Jiang Zilin's stammering voice made Tangua feel that this reclusive expert was being a little wishy-washy. They were just chatting nicely. Why did the atmosphere suddenly change? Peak. Chapter 46-45. Fellow immortal, let's get down to business. Tangua. All right then, let's continue the topic from before. You said that Yunyi Chen is scheming against your Saint Ascension inheritance, and also the fate entanglement between him and Wei Xian. You want me to resolve all of this? What is going on? According to my calculations, Yunyi Chen should be a clone of someone in the immortal world. As for who it is, I haven't been able to deduce it yet, because the other party used some methods, and the immortal world is too far away from here. It's not easy to deduce. Also, my current abilities are a bit limited, Jiang Zilin said. However, the other party pulled out a rock and smashed it on his own foot. The entanglement between Yunyi Chen and Wei Xian is the biggest failure. Even that person has no way to resolve this fate entanglement. Because the place I'm currently living in is special. It's a restriction that I set up when I was at my peak. It can isolate many things and form a world of its own. Therefore, I'm not bound by the shackles of fate. Tangua understood. What you mean is that even if the outside world reverses time, and everything is refold, you won't be affected here, right? That's right. Jiang Zilin was a bit happy. It was good to chat with smart people. They understood with just a little bit. That person split off Yunyi Chen to become a sage. I don't know where he got the emotion-severing art from, but he let a part of him cultivate in the mortal world. Enchanting said. When Yunyi Chen was reincarnated in the mortal world, that person should have known some things about the sage inheritance, and even accurately found the location of this cave. However, how could a mere immortal like him break through the restrictions here? When he was breaking the restriction, I severely injured him. Then, he left unwillingly and purposely left the emotion-severing art in the cave, making me think that he gave up. The emotion-severing art is a cultivation technique that goes against the laws of heaven and earth. Even if one can cultivate to the immortal emperor realm and step into the sage realm, they will be broken down by heaven and earth and disappear. However, most people can't cultivate to this stage and will die midway due to various reasons. After that, Yunyi Chen went through a lot and came to the cave to find the emotion-severing manual. Fortunately, I'm the one living here. If it were those old men in the past, seeing Yunyi Chen's tenacity, they would most likely have taken him in as their successor. Jiang Zilin said this with a hint of complacency. I didn't care about him. I just watched him quietly from the side. Tangua's head was filled with black lines. Logically speaking, saints should be old monsters. How could this person be serious one moment and not be serious the next? Tangua felt that Jiang Zilin was right. Normally, if a reclusive expert met a useless cultivator like Yunyi Chen who was unwilling to give up, he would definitely feel that it was a pity. If he had the ability, He would give him a hand and see what kind of luck he had. Unfortunately, that person did not expect that Jiang Zilin was indifferent to all of this. Later, I felt that my decision was very correct. After Yunichen succeeded in his cultivation, he actually went back and killed everyone in his family, regardless of their identities. Jiang Zilin even dared to sigh. I think that Yunichen's real body is not a good person. If the inheritance of becoming a sage fell into his hands, it would not be a good thing. It would be a disaster for the immortal world. Tangwa understood what Jiang Zilin meant. In a small family like the Yun family, there were many people who were not good to Yunichen. However, there were also many people who had no grudges with Yunichen. Many of them were even like Yunichen, struggling to survive. Peak. Chapter 46-46. On the path of cultivation, other than those favored by the heavens and those favored by the heavens, no one had an easy time. Yunichen could have killed all the people who had humiliated him, but he didn't let any of them off. This made him seem really heartless. Later on, Yunichen actually married a woman, Jiang Zilin continued. I felt that something was amiss. After some calculations, I indeed discovered that the bond between this woman and Yunichen was somewhat strange. It was as if someone had deliberately tied the two of them together. At first, I thought that that person had created a love tribulation for Yunichen. This way, after he severed the love tribulation in the future, his cultivation level would increase very quickly. As time passed, Yunichen brought that woman to the cave to kill her. At that time, I guess what the person behind this was planning. That person wanted me to open the restriction, and didn't hesitate to sacrifice an innocent woman and the child in her womb. Otherwise, why would Yunichen bury Wei Xian above the restriction? At that time, the blood had dripped onto the restriction. That person probably thought that I wouldn't leave her in the lurch and let Wei Xian die in front of me. Wei Xian's talent was also top-notch. Perhaps after I saved her, I might even pass on my inheritance to her. The child in her womb was Yunichen, so it was also considered his. Wei Xian was Yunichen's former wife, so she was also considered his wife. It was really a good scheme. Tangwa also felt that that person was indeed very scheming and vicious. However, he didn't expect that although I saved Wei Xian, I didn't show up, nor did I pass on my inheritance to her. I didn't even give her any treasures or cultivation techniques. When Jiang Zilin said this, the self-satisfaction in his tone couldn't be concealed. Wei Xian's talent was not bad, and she also had a temperament. She didn't need my help at all. As long as her life was preserved, it was only a matter of time before she soared into the sky. Why would she need my help? Moreover, I wasn't fated to be with her. She even drenched my restrictions in blood. It's already good enough that she's not angry. How can I give her an inheritance? Tangwa felt that Jiang Zilin's style was really fickle. One moment, he felt that Wei Xian was pitiful, and the next moment, he felt that Wei Xian was troublesome. He even had a little misophobia. The person behind this has miscalculated several times in a row. Coupled with his serious injuries, he has no intention of coming to this place. One thing I didn't expect was that Yunichen and Wei Xian would be entangled with each other for life. In the end, that person had to do the same thing in front of me every life. When Jiang Zilin mentioned this, he was grinding his teeth. In this life I was ruthless. If he didn't have a life-saving technique, he might have died. It's a pity that I couldn't kill him directly. When Tangwa heard this, she couldn't help but laugh. That's right. Since Wei Xian needs your help to revive, why didn't you just stop saving Wei Xian when you knew about their fated entanglement? Tangwa was only making a guess. In this way, can Wei Xian reincarnate directly and not be entangled with Yunichen? You must be joking. Since it's a fated entanglement for life, how can it be changed if I don't save him? Fated entanglement is very powerful. To be honest, I've done this before, but unfortunately, it was useless. If I don't save Wei Xian, fate will arrange for someone else to save him. In short, if the shackles of fate are not removed, Wei Xian will be saved by someone eventually. He won't die completely. Then what does fellow immortal plan to do now? He should have a motive for telling her so much. Apex. Chapter 46-47. Fellow immortal, can you do me a favor? Tangua. Tell me about it first. I've long predicted that you would come. Actually, I've been waiting for you, Jiang Zilin said. Back then, countless sages sacrificed themselves. Actually, they all kept their inheritances and left them with me. At that time, I had just become a sage, and was considered to be one of the more talented ones. Those old men unanimously believed that I could complete this task, and did not hesitate to seal me here. In order to let me escape the great calamity of the world, they even dismantled me. Tangua hesitated. Dismantled? It means dismantling the bones and burying them. However, this can be recovered for sages. It just needs some time. Jiang Zilin said. They were afraid that things would change, so they left their inheritances in my hands. They hoped that one day, these inheritances could be delivered to their descendants. Then how can I help you? I'll open the restriction first. Then, you can come in and help me open the seal. You just have to put my bones back together, Jiang Zilin said very casually. Then Tangua felt the restriction being opened. She quickly jumped in. After she went in, the barrier closed again. The place where Tangua appeared was like a palace. It wasn't as magnificent as she had imagined. Instead, it was filled with mysteries. She felt as if she was in a very special world, and her connection with the outside world seemed to have been cut off. This place has already become a world of its own. Jiang Lin's voice rang in her ears. Take 7 steps forward, and you'll see a white jade cauldron. Tangua followed Jiang Zilin's instructions, and took 7 steps forward. Indeed, she saw a white jade cauldron. Take the cauldron away. My bones are buried under it. Tangua moved the cauldron away. She did not dig it up for the time being. Instead, she said, You're not tricking me? I won't trick you. Jiang Zilin said, Don't worry and dig. If you don't believe me, when you dig up the bones, you can drip your blood on it to form a contract. Then, I won't be able to harm you. Tangua knew this saying. After forming a blood contract, the owner of the bones would not be able to harm her. However, was this person a little crazy after being buried underground for so long that he was willing to do such a thing? Although it was only a blood contract, most people would not allow someone to do so. How old were you when you became a saint? Do you have any experience in the martial arts world? Jiang Zilin said. Fellow immortal, you don't have to doubt me. I'm not that stupid. The reason why you're doing this is because you're different. Tangua was curious. How am I different? Oh, you said that we were fated to be together. Could it be because of this? More or less, Jiang Zilin added when he saw that Tangua was not moving. Immortal friend, can you move now? You still haven't told me what fate you have with me. Jiang Zilin stammered for a while before saying, Marriage. System, pft. Ha 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 ha, this system is dying of laughter. After all this time, it turned out to be a marriage. No wonder the scene became more and more strange towards the end. Tangua was also taken aback. Then she laughed out loud. So if I help you, I have to compensate myself? This is fate. Fellow immortal, just let nature take its course. There's no need to force it. If fellow immortal is not willing, I can't force you. Jiang Zilin was afraid that Tangua would be angry. He turned and ran away. Back then, he agreed to take care of the aftermath, because those old men said that he would only be able to preserve his legacy if he stayed behind. Because this tribulation could only be ended by his future Dao companion. The Peak. Chapter 46-48. However, the chances of his Dao partner appearing were very small. Due to some accidents, she might not appear again. Fortunately, his luck was good and she still appeared. Tangua squatted down and found a small shovel. She started digging. Have you had a Dao partner before? No, I have been single for 10,000 years. Those old men have already divined for me. The chances of my Dao partner appearing are very small. You said earlier that you wanted to pass on your sage inheritance to me because of marriage. Jiang Zilin. Yes. Do you know that Daoist companions can also kill each other in order to fight for resources and cultivation techniques? If I had such a heart, and your bones were still in my hands, wouldn't you be done for? Jiang Zilin. The old men have already divined that as long as you appear, It will be a great fortune. He did not feel any malice from her. Ever since she appeared, he felt the bond between them. But I don't want a Dao partner. Jiang Zilin. You don't have to force yourself. I won't force you. If you want one, you can tell me. Do you know that there is a term? Jiang Zilin was puzzled. What term? Spare tire. What's a spare tire? Jiang Zilin really did not know what it was. Immortal friend, can you tell me what a spare tire is? It's referring to what you said earlier. If I need a Dao partner, I will come to you. Tangua said. Jiang Zilin. So that's what it means. It's very appropriate. System. This silly kid, he is not angry at all. After a while, Tangua dug out a box from the ground. The box was quite big. She opened the box and a soft white light shone out from the box. Tangua looked at the transparent bones in the box and could not help but praise. Your bones are quite beautiful. Even a sage's bones are so beautiful. Jiang Zilin praised himself. When you become a sage in the future, your bones will also be so beautiful. No need to be envious. Even a hair or a bone of a sage can continue to live. It's just that only with a complete sage's bone can you have all your strength. Tangua. What should I do now? Aren't you going to drip blood? No need, Tangua said. I don't think you'll hurt me. Of course. He had been single for tens of thousands of years. Now that he finally found someone who could become his Dao companion, how could he harm her? Where's your skull? Tangua rummaged through the box but didn't find Jiang Zilin's skull. Here it is. As soon as Jiang Zilin finished speaking, Tangua felt something. She raised her head slightly and saw a skull flying over from afar. It was still transparent and did not look scary at all. Instead, it looked like a piece of art. Jiang Zilin's skull flew in front of her. My soul is sealed in this skull. Next, help me put the other bones together and place the skull at the top. The seal will be automatically removed. All right. Tangua squatted down again and fiddled with the transparent crystal-like bones. She asked, What are you going to do after we get out? Follow you to the immortal world. What about after you go to the immortal world? Tangua asked. Didn't you say that those seniors wanted you to help them pass the inheritance to their descendants? Aren't you going to do these things? I have to do it. Jiang Zilin answered. But it's not that easy to get the inheritance. When I recover, I'll set a test for them. Whether they can get it depends on their understanding and temperament. This is what those old men said. They can't give it away for free. Do you still have a recovery period? My flesh is gone. I need time to recover and let my flesh grow back. Jiang Zilin said. During this time, I'll follow you. Peek. Chapter 46-49. Tangua. What can you do by following me? I don't keep idle people. You can't take advantage of me just because we're fated to be married. Jiang Zilin seemed to be thinking. The skull kept emitting a beautiful white light. Although I can't regrow my flesh for now, no one in the celestial world should be my match. If someone bullies you, I can help you fight back. Is that so? Tangua seemed to be hesitating. Jiang Zilin became nervous. That's fine. Then it's settled. Okay. Jiang Zilin's skull swayed around Tangua while she was piecing the bones together. She could hear that he was very excited. He even deliberately controlled his emotions to appear more stable. Did you come here specifically to find Wei Xian? Jiang Zilin tried to find a topic. Tangua, yes. Then how do you plan to solve this? Although he knew that Tangua could solve the shackles of fate, Jiang Zilin was still a little curious. Yunichen and I have a grudge. In the future, he will severely injure me for Wei Xian. Then, he will search my soul and destroy my cultivation. Tangua previously thought that Yunichen was a heartless person. Now that she heard Jiang Zilin's words, she felt that Yunichen himself was probably such a person. It wasn't strange. Jiang Zilin was right. If such a person obtained the sage inheritance, it would be a disaster for the entire celestial world. When Jiang Zilin heard this, he was very shocked and also a little angry. This person is indeed unscrupulous. Fortunately, I didn't fall for it. If I foolishly gave the sage inheritance to him, I don't know what would happen in the future. He wasn't shocked that Tangua knew about the future. Since she came here, it wasn't strange that she knew about the future. She must have grasped some opportunity. Back then, those old men also had great foresight. They must have calculated that they couldn't avoid Yunichen's scheme, so they let him stay. That was very likely. According to those old men's nature, they would most likely fall for Yunichen's trick. Alright, do you think this will work? After Tanggua finished piecing together Jiang Zilin's bones, she also took a few more glances. Although it was just a set of bones, because it was the bones of a saint, it was really very beautiful. It emitted a bright white light on the ground, which made people know at a glance that it was a treasure. If someone were to pick up a saint's bone and use it to refine a powerful artifact, it would definitely be very powerful. Jiang Zilin only felt that his bones were a little cold. Perhaps it was because he had not been pieced together for too long. His skull flew over and landed on the skeleton. He controlled the skull to fly to the ground and reminded Tanggua. It's a little dazzling later. Tanggua understood. Was he asking her to protect her eyes? When Jiang Zilin's skull landed in its original position, a strong light was emitted. As Tanggua was prepared, this strong light did not cause any irritation to her eyes. The strong white light made it impossible for Tanggua to see clearly what had happened to Jiang Zilin. But she heard the sound of bones cracking. After a while, the white light disappeared, and a set of crystal-like bones stood in front of Tanggua. The outside was even more lustrous than before. In the blink of an eye, there was an extra set of clothes on this set of bones. It was a white robe. If one didn't look at the front, they would really think that this was an elegant young master. She also saw a hairband hanging on Jiang Zilin's bones. Then, she heard Jiang Zilin muttering, "I forgot that I don't need the hairband for now." Tanggua. Top point. Chapter 4650. System. Host, this guy is such a prick. He just came out, and he wants to wear nice clothes and tie a hairband. Did he forget that he's just a skeleton? Look at his shiny head. It's so funny. Tanggua. He's a little shameless. Jiang Zilin put away the hairband. Tanggua happened to see that there were a few rings on his hand. There were all kinds of rings, and they were especially beautiful. They were even glowing like gems. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. This set of bones was not ordinary. Jiang Zilin, do you want to wear a cloak? You won't scare people like this, but you'll definitely make many people think that you're a treasure. When the time comes, they'll come to snatch you, Tanggua reminded him. Pass on a cloak and a mask. Jiang Zilin didn't refuse. You reminded me. That's how it should be. My bones are too beautiful. If I go out, I'm afraid that everyone will covet me. It'll be very troublesome. System narcissist. Jiang Zilin found a cloak and hung it on his body. The hood of the cloak covered his bald and shiny skull. He also took out a mask and covered his skull. Then, he used a little trick to make his body bulge a little. If one only looked at the surface, they would only think that this person was very mysterious. They wouldn't suspect that the person under the cloak was a skeleton. How about this? Jiang Zilin asked. He even walked in circles in front of Tanggua. From his actions, it seemed that he was very satisfied with his appearance. Tanggua, pretty good. Jiang Zilin was satisfied. He formed a seal. Tanggua instantly felt that the surroundings were different. Compared to before, there seemed to be more of a living person. Are you waiting for Wei Xian to come back? Why did you come to find Wei Xian? Jiang Zilin invited Tanggua to sit at the white jade table. He even personally brewed tea for her. The tea was spirit tea. It had been many years, but it was very well preserved. When it was brewed, its fragrance spread. Just a sip would make one feel refreshed. I want to impart some cultivation techniques and treasures to her, so that she can cultivate and become an immortal as soon as possible. Then, she can go to the immortal world and find trouble with Yunichen. She can expose his actions and let Yunichen's reputation spread far and wide. After that, I plan to extract Yunichen's soul. As long as Yunichen doesn't die and his soul is under my control, there will be no such thing as fate. Jiang Zilin. That's a good idea. According to the frequency of Wei Xian going out, he should be back in a day. You can make some preparations in advance. Tanggua took out a portrait. I've already prepared it. She opened the portrait. Jiang Zilin was surprised when he saw it. It was actually her portrait. Since I'm going to give her something, I can't do it secretly. I have to show my face, Tanggua explained. Jiang Zilin thought for a while and nodded. That makes sense. Jiang Zilin finished brewing the spirit tea and poured a cup for Tanggua. Try it. Tanggua didn't stand on ceremony. The spirit tea's taste was indeed very attractive. It should be considered an ancient tea. She took a sip. It was just a small sip, but the tea flowed between her lips and teeth and didn't dissipate for a long time. There was also a surge of energy that flowed through her body and finally stopped at her dantian. It instantly raised her cultivation. Jiang Zilin saw that Tanggua liked it. I have a lot of this tea. If you like it, I can give you some. Jiang Zilin was a man of action. He waved his hand, and 6 white jade jars appeared on the table. When you finish drinking, come find me for more. Peaked that you're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.